In this video, I want to talk to my subscribers from the Uma Fight Camp. It's getting increasingly difficult for me to post videos where I'm talking about boxing. In fact, it's getting increasingly difficult for me to post videos where I'm talking about the martial arts. And I want to explain why. I've been on YouTube now for about 12 years. I started boxing when I was 9 years old. By the time I was 12, I was indulging in bare knuckle boxing matches. Actually, from 12 to 15, I indulged in about 9. There weren't that many, but about 9. And these were bare knuckle matches that were not that unusual in the 70s between young boys who come from a boxing family. You would box 3 rounds, just like adults, with no headgear, with your fist in a remote area. I didn't go into a regulation gym until I was 16, and because I had been boxing from the time I was 9, I immediately started sparring professionals. I started wrestling in high school when I was 15. At one point, I was selected to be part of a camp given by a man named Daryl Golar, who years later after having that camp, we found out was called by Mario Sperry to go and help the Brazilian top team implement wrestling into their curriculum. And some of the people he taught were the Nogueira brothers, Murilo Bustamante, of course Mario Sperry, as well as a very young Victor Belfort. Entering into karate, I fought in several bare knuckle, full contact karate tournaments, bare knuckle karate set fights. Some of them had rules where you couldn't even wear a gi top. You just didn't wear any top at all. You could wear your gi pants. Everything was able to be used except you couldn't poke the eyes, but you could kick and punch to the groin. It wasn't until much later that I came to realize that the American martial art community is ran by a segment that sees martial arts as being a hobby. I had not known about Joe Rogan at the time. I came to realize that people saw Joe Rogan as being a real martial artist. This is not going to go over well. But I came to realize and came to see, which I did not know when I was asked by a former student to post videos on YouTube, that the American martial arts community is generally ran by white, suburban, under 30 people who know very little about the martial arts. White, suburban, not even poor whites, white, suburban, under 30 men who know very little about the martial arts. They have the loudest voice. So they will make people like Jesse Enkamp, Sensei Seth, Icy Mike, in spite of them having people like Randy Couture to look to, Boss Rutan to look to. If people want to hang on to their racism and don't want to include the many black martial artists, the MMA martial artists who make up all-time greats. John Jones is black. Daniel Cormier is black. Anderson Silva is black. Kamaru Usman is black. Israel Adesanya is black. Aljamain Sterling, go Aljamain against Sean O'Malley, right? Go ahead, Aljamain, do your thing. The Floyd Mayweather of MMA. I wasn't a great fan of Floyd Mayweather, as you know, as a fighter, great fighter, but not as a person. But Aljamain Sterling, I've come to like, and I depend on him to put Sean O'Malley and his fans where they belong, back into mediocrity. Also, I'm rooting on Izzy, who I don't like using the N-word, but I certainly want him to beat the living crap out of Sean Strickland. I think Sean Strickland is much like Tyson Fury, where they may not be racist, but they are certainly backed by racists. So I want Izzy to do his thing and send him and his people back to where they belong, mediocrity. Even though I don't care whether you people like what I said or not. I don't make a living off of YouTube, therefore I can say what the hell I please. The fact of the matter is, though, fact of the matter is that I've become increasingly bored, and I have talked about white folks, and the white martial artists who has basically just destroyed the martial arts community, right? Because they're suburban. They don't know anything about training. You know, they think Dana White discovered fighting and Joe Rogan is the greatest fighter that ever lived. But I also want to say something about black podcasters. It's very difficult for me to talk about boxing because of the influx of black boxing podcasters who don't even put on the boxing gloves, who think that Floyd Mayweather is the only fighter that ever lived, and that Terrence Crawford is an overnight sensation. People who look at Vasily Lomachenko and say that he is a great white hope, when in fact he is a blown up featherweight. Vasily Lomachenko is a blown up featherweight who choose to fight bigger guys, and in spite of him being undersized, is always moving forward. He is discredited, just like Manny Pacquiao was discredited by black podcasters who know very little about boxing and are little more than idol worshippers of Floyd Mayweather. These same people have now discovered Terrence Crawford, somebody that I spoke about 8 years ago. It is just very difficult for me to talk about boxing and talk about martial arts and know that people who know nothing about either, who in their admiration for men are just one step above wearing a dress, it's just so difficult for me. So you subscribers who ask me to talk about the Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence fight, do I have something to say about it? Yes. Why? Because most people are wrong. Most people are wrong. There are about 3 things I have to say about it. And I will. But I am not chasing subscribers. I am not chasing donations to a Patreon page. I'm simply not doing that. I will post it. What do I think is going to happen between Shakur and Haney and Tank Davis? What do I think is going to happen? And Frank Martin? You know, there's a spoiler out there. Who do I think is going to be the spoiler? I will talk about it. Okay? I will talk about it. But I won't rush to talk about it. Why? Because I just don't want to. I just simply don't want to. I want to give you clips. I want to develop my PDFs. I want to develop my website. I want to develop the full curriculums of bare knuckle boxing, jailhouse boxing, 4 and 5 parts to my jailhouse boxing, 4 and 5 parts to my karate for the street. I'm in the process of producing those because people keep asking me, do I have these things? And I say I don't. Because I'm trying to do so many different things with D.A. Carmen, with that channel that I changed from my script with D.A. Carmen in order to take full responsibility for everything that I say and be identified right or wrong with what I say. And I want you people to subscribe to D.A. Carmen, to that channel. If you people really support me, subscribe to what I do best, which is talk honestly, philosophically, in a way about things that people really don't want to talk about or don't talk enough about. Okay? But to my subscribers, it's very difficult for me. It was easier years ago. But seeing and looking at this crowd of mediocrity, this crowd of just mediocrity, people fighting, I want you to look at it. When you finish this video, I want you to look at the boxing podcast and how people are just trying to make their thumbnails more exciting. And that people are just talking about, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that and this did that and this and that. You will look at their channels and they're not even sparring. They're not even playing around boxing, just even for recreation. I want you to look at these white martial artists who are just, Sensei Seth and Jerry Enkamp and all these people together, and they're saying, well, this is what you're doing, that's what you're doing. The suburban white people of America who hang out at the 7-Eleven saying, yes, that's the martial art, that's what martial arts is all about. I want you to see what is really out there, what's really happening in the martial arts community, and why people like me, real martial artists, real dyed-in-the-wool blood martial artists who have died and died in the ring, and died in the street, and bled and sweated. Look at anything I do when you see that I know my craft. But unfortunately, people that know their craft the best just get burned out. They just get burned out, and I am burned out. So, I will. I promise you. It may not be when you want it. It may not be, I may not ride the wave of popularity of certain things. But if you contact me and you ask me to comment on something, you have my word, I will get around to it. Okay? Just understand my situation and where I am when it comes down to talking about boxing and talking about the martial arts. Okay? Appreciate it. Love you. D.A. Carmen. Safe Carmen to you. See you next video. Inshallah.